Basically, people just do a lot of the same shit I do, and I'm just like, can you not? Like, I already exist.
Picasso had a saying, he said, good artists copy, great artists steal. And we have, always been shameless about stealing great ideas.
We'll understand that copying, inspiration, stealing, paying homage, all of these things can kind of be one and the same.
Creation requires influence. Everything we make is a remix of existing creations, our lives, and the lives of others.
The really great artists steal.
In music, producers have these sample libraries where they have a bunch of records from different eras and genres that they end up taking a pre-existing element from, like a drum loop or a melody, and then they manipulate that sample in a track of their own. Apart from the fact that that adds to the generativity of music, I just think it's incredible that they're essentially remixing a collection of references to make art that fits their own vision. But I don't think it's a music exclusive thing. In fact, I think we see it across all mediums.
The best comedians see the best jokes. They see them coming. Best artists are the ones who have the best antenna for this material that's available. It's coming through.
Where does this thought of great artists copying come from if we all have a bad taste in our mouth after seeing or witnessing someone blatantly steal another person's work or ideas?
That's my bar! Shit. He copied my whole f***ing flow!
That kissed me through the phone!
He copied my whole f***ing flow!
So this desire to be original, beyond the fact that everyone has to source something from somewhere, is just our egos deceiving us.
You need to become self-obsessed. Why? Because when your energy is so focused on yourself, on the love of self, on what the self gets to create, what the self gets to experience, you do not have any more energy to waste in any other places.
After we've grounded ourselves in the fundamentals through copying, it's then possible to create something new through transformation, taking an idea and creating variations. This is time-consuming tinkering, but it can eventually produce a breakthrough.
Our focus on this planet should be to improve the work of our masters and teachers, and then pass on that improvement to our own students and allow them to do the same with our torch that we have passed to them. When Erling Haaland scores a goal, he is a culmination of all his predecessors. You can see him shoot the way Henry does, cross the keeper and slot the goal in the opposite side of the net by getting his body across. This is what I mean by taking something from another person, stealing something, and integrating it into your own process.
Yo, my nigga, it's cold blood, like, you know what I'm saying, like kind of talk it. I want you to talk, but then sing it a little bit with more expression, like.
The shit that we got is rare, so hard to find. Oh, baby, wow, they the shit that we got is rare, so hard to find. Oh, baby, wow, they
I remember a time where Kanye West was despised for sampling music. Chaka Khan, the woman he sampled from through The Wire, actually criticized him heavily and said she pretty much wasn't messing with it.
But you can't mess it up because I will be singing it after all. It's my voice. But he found a way.
There's this belief that he somewhat ruined the sanctity of music by taking pieces of other people's work and transforming it. I challenge this with a simple idea. If we hate on people who sample, shouldn't we hate on any musician who cannot record a studio album solely by themselves and produce that album in great quality? For me, the only thing different between sampling and forming a band is the timeline in which these events occur.
When someone whose boyfriend just got locked up for selling drugs because he couldn't find a job and he had three strikes and he had the X on his back, so there was no work opportunities. When she hears drug dealing just to get by, stack your money till it gets sky high. We wasn't supposed to make it past 25. Joke's on you, we still alive. Throw your hands up in the sky and say we don't care what people say. That right there is like a family member speaking to them.
Kanye West is not the only person hated for stealing. In fact, there's an entire group of people who are despised for taking the work of other artists.
And if I was Monet and I was still alive, I probably wouldn't be too happy with this. Now, I'm not a copyright lawyer, so I'm not even gonna try to get into what counts as transformative work or, what's copyright infringement, what's not. But the bottom line is we don't actually really know the exact totality of exactly where these AI models are scraping from.
So, yes, we return to these age-old debates about what is art theft. How much of the product needs to be taken, and in what methods does someone's work have to be taken for it to be actual theft that one can sue for versus inspiration.
I recently launched a product that got an immediate and very large backlash. People thought I had generated a bunch of images with AI so that I wouldn't have to pay an artist. The art was actually made by an artist I hired, but he did choose to use some AI elements. And I'd like to discuss that today and take responsibility for it because a lot of you raised very valid concerns about how AI is threatening artists' jobs. Some of you said that you feel AI art is in opposition to human creativity. It's too easy, it's making us lazy, it doesn't have the same soul as human-made art, things like that. And some people said that they were against any use of an AI that was trained on people's work without their consent.
What I will say is I don't feel bad or sympathetic for any artist who feels like a soulless tool like AI can put them out of a job or take their place. In fact, I feel like those people somewhat have it coming because they're mentally preparing to lose. AI will not replace the artists who can communicate their ideas effectively and get across a message. We will be using it to create art pieces that we couldn't even dream of achieving a few years ago.
The interaction of reality and dreams is a motif that I still have interest in, and I keep bringing it back into my work. I think the way in which I've handled this, along with my workmanship skills, have gotten better and better after using this motif several times.
Speaking about dreams, bro, there's this really cool film called Paprika, which released around 2006, and it just lives in my head rent-free. The reason why it lives in my head rent-free is that it was a victim of theft. You see, there's this great director as well called Christopher Nolan who jacked a whole lot of Satoshi Kon's work and he threw it into a movie called Inception, and that movie went on to become a cult classic. We also have this guy Darren Aronofsky, who also jacked from master Satoshi Kon, and his work on Black Swan is pretty much the child of Satoshi Kon's work on Perfect Blue in 1997.
ダーレン・アロノフスキーっていう監督が撮ったんですよ。で、この2カットまんまアングルも構図も同じで、
上からのとこの水の中の、
レクイエム・フォー・ドリームに使われているんですけど、本人に会って確認したらオマージュだって。
Everything's a copy of a copy of a copy.
I will admit, contrary to my stance on AI, it is hard to watch people get their ideas taken and refurbished by people who have a bigger money machine or publicity machine running for them in the back end, and they're able to gain much more success than the actual authors or creators of something. Thomas Edison famously took the inventions of other people and just published them as his own, bro. Now, if you were to go to any university in the world, most students would tell you that that is unfair. How could Thomas Edison do that? That is totally not fair. Yet most of these students would lose their ideas to an institution, i.e. the university they're at, if they had a really great idea. Robert Greene wrote this really controversial book called The 48 Laws of Power, and law number 7 says you get other people to do the work for you, and then you take credit for that work. Thomas Edison was one of the people who was great at this. I think another person who's been very good at doing this is Kanye West, and no one talks about it, but we do talk about one of his students a lot in terms of doing this.
Drake?
Drake also learned this technique from very early on. Get other people to do the heavy lifting for you so you don't have to fret.
They were saying that Drake was biting your style. That's what the fans were saying.
Yeah, bro. You could take his verse, like they did a mashup. They put his verse on my song, and the cadence is literally just at the same tempo.
Hey, you there, watching the video. Hi, my name is Loy, in case you don't know. I know my audience is a pretty smart audience. I know you guys are very insightful. You guys give me some of the best comments, and I really do my best to read through them. The reason why I'm saying this is that I don't have to hammer a point too many times for you guys to get it. You guys are a pretty sharp bunch. With that said, subscribe to the channel. It helps me create more videos for you guys, and it also helps me convince sponsors and other people to jump on, etc, etc. Like I said, I don't have to hammer a point. Subscribe. Now back on the issue about being a great artist and stealing. The important thing to remember is that the imitators will all eventually fall off. The clones of something always lack the authenticity that the real version gives off. It's kind of like all of these films coming out of Hollywood, which are remakes of original movies. So you'll have Lion King 1, and then 20 years later you'll get Lion King 1 again, but they've remade it and they've completely missed the entire essence that made that film special. That is what we call a clone. It is inauthentic, and it is not stealing. Stealing would be taking the concept of the Lion King and moving it on and adding to it and adding a value to it, which is powerful. And that's what great artists do. But not everyone's trying to be a great artist. Some people are just here for bread, because bro, bread is bread, bro. I can't knock people who are just in it to make money. But for those of you who want to be a great artist, which not everyone is trying to be, but if you want to be great, bro, you really need to learn how to steal well.